If you repeat the same small thing every night, you can change everything by morning, but only if you don't miss it. That's what I tell myself at exactly 10:47 p.m. as the cheap digital clock on my nightstand clicks into place with a dull red glow that fills the dark room. And no matter what kind of day I've had, no matter how tired or numb or restless I feel, I always stop. Always sit on the edge of my bed with my feet flat against the cold hardwood floor. Always take one slow breath that never feels deep enough, and whisper the same sentence under my breath like it's something fragile I might lose if I say it too loud, even though I don't believe it most nights, even though part of me still expects everything to fall apart the second I close my eyes, because it used to, every single night, like clockwork, waking up at 3 a.m. with my chest tight and my thoughts racing so fast it felt like I'd just sprinted a mile in place, staring at the ceiling in the dark, counting seconds instead of sheep, wondering what I did wrong, what I missed, why everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers no matter how hard I tried to hold it together during the day. And then one night, I just started this. No big reason, no moment of clarity, just a quiet decision to do something, anything, that felt like control, and somehow it worked. Not all at once, not like a miracle, but slowly, like the world turning the volume down one notch at a time, until the silence stopped feeling like something that could swallow me whole, and started feeling like something I could actually breathe in. And now it's the only thing I trust, this small, almost meaningless ritual that nobody sees, that nobody would understand, the one thing standing between me and the version of myself I barely survived. And I used to think it was mine, something I built out of nothing, something I found on my own when no one else was there, until tonight, when I almost didn't do it, when I stayed standing in the middle of the room staring at the clock as it blinked 10:47, and for a second I thought maybe I didn't need it anymore. Maybe I was finally okay, but then my chest tightened just a little, just enough to remind me how thin that line really is. And as I finally sat down, as the floor felt colder than usual, and the room felt quieter than it should, I realized something that didn't make sense at all, something I couldn't explain, because the tea on my nightstand was already warm even though I hadn't made it, and the lamp was already dim to that exact soft glow I always set myself, like someone had been here before me, like someone knew this routine better than I did. And for the first time since I started this, the ritual didn't feel like something I created, it felt like something waiting for me. The first thing I notice is the silence is not empty anymore. It feels placed, like someone adjusted it carefully, so it would not press too hard against my chest. And I sit there longer than usual with my hands resting on my knees, staring at the cup beside me, as a thin line of steam curls upward in slow, steady spirals, the kind that only happens when the temperature is just right, not too hot, not already fading, exactly the way I always make it. Except I know I did not touch the kettle. Tonight, I know I did not move through the motions that usually anchor me here, and that realization settles into me in a quiet, unsettling way, not sharp, not loud, just enough to make me aware of something shifting beneath the surface, something I cannot name yet. So I reach for the cup anyway because my body knows what to do even when my mind hesitates, and the warmth seeps into my palms like it recognizes me, like it has been waiting, and I take a slow breath, the kind I have practiced, night after night. In through my nose, out through my mouth, counting without thinking, letting the rhythm guide me back to that fragile edge where everything usually starts to feel manageable again. Except tonight there is a second rhythm underneath mine, faint but steady, like footsteps echoing just out of sight, and I freeze for a second, listening. But there is nothing, just the low hum of the city outside my window, a car passing somewhere down the street, the distant sound of someone laughing 2 floors below. Normal sounds, ordinary sounds, and yet the room feels arranged, like I walked into a moment that had already begun without me. And when I finally whisper the same sentence I have said every night, it does not feel like I am forcing the words into existence. It feels like I am finishing something that was already there, like the ending of a thought I did not start. And that is when it hits me, not as fear, not as panic, but as a quiet, steady awareness that makes my chest tighten. Just enough to matter, because routines do not prepare themselves. They do not anticipate you. They do not adjust when you almost do not show up. And yet everything tonight feels like it expected me to sit here anyway, expected me to continue, expected me not to break the pattern even when I almost did. And I think about the past few weeks, the nights that felt easier, the mornings that did not hurt as much, the subtle changes I had been so quick to claim as progress, as proof that I was finally fixing something inside myself. And now those memories feel slightly out of place, like pieces of a puzzle I did not assemble alone. And I realize I cannot remember the exact moment this ritual became so precise, so perfectly timed, so consistent in ways I never could have managed on my own. And my grip tightens around the cup just a little as that thought settles deeper. Because if I did not build this as carefully as I believed, then someone else did, someone who knew exactly when I would sit down, exactly what I would need, exactly how to make the night feel safe before I even realized I needed saving. And for the first time since I started this, I do not feel in control of the ritual. I feel like I am stepping into something that was designed for me, something that has been quietly holding everything together while I convinced myself I was the one doing the work. And I cannot decide if that realization should comfort me or undo me, so I sit there a little longer than usual, listening to that second rhythm beneath my breath, wondering how long it has been there and why I am only noticing it now. I do not sleep that night. Not really. Because even after I finish the ritual and turn off the lamp, even after I lie down and pull the blanket up to my chest like I always do, something inside me stays alert, not in panic, not like before, but in a quiet, listening way, like I am waiting for a sound I have not learned how to recognize yet. And when I finally drift off, it feels shallow, like I am hovering just above real rest. And when I wake up the next morning, it is not the usual jolt at 3 in the morning. It is sunlight slipping through the blinds at exactly the angle I like, soft and warm across my face. And for a second, I just lie there staring at the ceiling because it feels too easy, too smooth, like something has removed all the friction from the day before it even started. And that is when I notice the second detail, the one that makes my chest tighten just enough to matter, because my phone is already silenced. Not just on Do Not Disturb, but completely muted the way I only set it when I am desperate for quiet. Except I do not remember touching it last night. I do not remember going through that step. And I sit up slowly, my heartbeat steady but louder in my ears as I reach for it, and check the settings, scrolling through the screen as if I might find an explanation hidden somewhere between notifications and timestamps. But everything looks intentional, deliberate, like it was done by someone who knew exactly what I needed before I did. And I set the phone back down carefully, like it might reveal something if I move too fast. And I try to tell myself it is nothing, that I must have done it without thinking, that habits can blur together when you repeat them enough. But the thought does not settle. It lingers, quiet and persistent, because habits do not anticipate you. They follow you. And this feels different. This feels like something moved ahead of me. Something adjusted the edges of my life just enough to make everything easier to step into. And I carry that thought with me through the morning, through the small routine of making coffee, through the way the sunlight seems to hit the counter at the exact same angle as last night's lamp, through the way the air in my apartment feels balanced, not too cold, not too still, like the entire space is tuned to a frequency I did not set. And when I step outside later, when I lock the door and pause for a second like I always do, checking that everything is secure, I realize I am not bracing myself for the day anymore. I am just moving into it. And that should feel like progress. It should feel like relief. But instead it feels like a question I do not know how to ask. Because somewhere between last night and this morning, something shifted from being mine to being shared, from something I controlled to something that was quietly guiding me. And as I walk down the street, as I pass the same buildings and the same people and the same small details that never used to matter, I cannot shake the feeling that I am not the only one keeping this rhythm anymore, that there is someone else moving in sync with me, someone who knows exactly when I will stop, when I will hesitate, when I will need something to steady me. And I do not know why that thought makes my chest feel warmer instead of colder. I do not know why it does not scare me the way it should. But as I reach the corner and pause before crossing, I catch myself wondering something I have not dared to think out loud yet. If this was never just my ritual, then who has been standing just outside my nights, making sure I never fall apart again? I try to ignore it for the rest of the day. I really do, because there is a comfort in pretending that everything is still mine, that the small improvements, the steady breathing, the quiet nights are all something I earned, something I built piece by piece out of nothing. And for a few hours it almost works. I move through my routine, I answer messages, I sit through conversations. I even catch myself smiling at something small and meaningless like the way the sunlight hits a window across the street. And it feels natural, not forced, not like I am performing normality. But something underneath it all keeps pulling my attention back to the same thought, the same quiet question that refuses to fade. And by the time evening starts to settle in, by the time the sky shifts into that soft gray blue that always makes the world feel slower, I can feel it again, that subtle alignment in the air, like everything is preparing itself before I even step inside my apartment. And when I open the door, the first thing I notice is the scent, faint but familiar, something clean and warm, like cedar and fresh linen, something that does not belong to me, something that should not be here, and I stop, just inside the doorway, keys still in my hand, listening, not because I hear anything, but because I expect to, because the silence now feels occupied, like it is holding its breath along with me. And I take one slow step forward, then another, my eyes scanning the room in a way they never used to, noticing details I would have ignored before, the way the lamp is already set to that exact soft glow again, the way the cup sits on the nightstand in the same position as last night, steam rising, in that same slow, steady rhythm, like time folded in on itself and repeated the moment without asking me first, and my chest tightens, not in panic, but in recognition, because this is no longer a coincidence, it is a pattern, and patterns mean intention, and intention means someone is here, or has been, or is close enough to know exactly when to act. And I swallow slowly, forcing my breathing to stay even as I step closer to the bed, as I reach out and touch the cup again, just to confirm it is real, just to ground myself in something physical, and it is warm, exactly as it should be, exactly as I would make it. And that is what unsettles me the most, not that someone is interfering, but that they are doing it perfectly, without leaving a single trace of disruption, without breaking the rhythm, only reinforcing it, like they understand me better than I understand myself. And I sit down slowly, the familiar position feeling different now, not like a place I retreat to, but like a mark I am expected to reach. And for a moment, I do not say the sentence. I just sit there in the quiet, letting the realization settle deeper, heavier, because this ritual was supposed to be mine. It was supposed to be the one place I did not have to depend on anyone, the one structure I could trust completely, and now it feels shared, supported, maybe even guided, and the thought should scare me. It should make me pull away, but instead there is something else there, something warmer, something dangerously close to relief, because if someone else is holding this together with me, then maybe I was never as alone as I believed. And that is when I hear it, not a voice, not a sound I can fully place, just the faintest shift in the air behind me, like someone moved just slightly out of sight, and my breath catches before I can stop it, because for the first time since this started, I am certain of one thing. I am not imagining it anymore. I do not turn around right away, not because I am brave, but because something in me understands that if I move too fast, if I break the rhythm that has been carefully held together around me, whatever is behind me might disappear again into that quiet space just out of reach, and I am not sure I want that anymore. So I sit there with my hands resting on my knees, the warmth of the cup slowly fading between my fingers as the seconds stretch longer than they should, and I focus on my breathing, on the steady rise and fall of my chest, on the familiar pattern that has carried me through so many nights, except now it feels different, like it is being mirrored, like there is another breath in the room that rises just a fraction of a second after mine, not close enough to overlap, but close enough to follow. And that realization sends a subtle tension through my shoulders, not fear, not exactly, but awareness, sharp and quiet. And I finally speak, not the sentence I always say, not the ritual words that are supposed to come next, but something simpler, something that feels more honest in this moment. I know you are there. My voice comes out softer than I expect, steady but careful, like I am testing the shape of the air between us. And for a second nothing changes. The room remains still, the silence holds, and I almost think I imagined it again, that this is just another layer of my mind trying to make sense of something it cannot control. But then the air shifts, just slightly, like a door opening somewhere far away, and I feel it more than I hear it. That presence moving closer, not fast, not sudden, just enough to close the distance I had been pretending did not exist, and my heartbeat picks up, not racing, just enough to remind me that this is real, that this is happening. And I lower my gaze to the floor, watching the faint shadow that stretches beside me under the lamp, watching as it changes shape, as it deepens and shifts like something is standing just behind me now, and I swallow slowly, grounding myself in the details, the texture of the wood beneath my feet, the cooling ceramic in my hands, the soft hum of the city outside, because none of it disappears, none of it breaks, everything stays intact, and that is what steadies me, because whatever this is, it is not here to tear anything apart. It has been holding everything together, carefully, precisely, night after night. And that thought settles into me in a way that feels almost like trust before I am ready to call it that. And I finally turn, slowly, deliberately, not rushing, not looking for something shocking or overwhelming, just allowing myself to see what has been standing at the edge of my nights this entire time. And when I do, when my eyes adjust to the dim light, and the space behind me comes into focus, I realize the most unsettling thing is not that he is there, not that someone has been here all along. It is how familiar he feels, like I have known him longer than I should, like every small adjustment, every quiet correction, every perfectly timed moment has been shaped by someone who understands me in a way I never allowed anyone to before. And he does not step closer, he does not speak right away, he just stands there, calm, steady, like he has been waiting for me to finally look back. And in that silence, in that suspended moment where everything could still fall apart, but does not, I understand something that changes everything. This was never just about surviving the night. It was about someone making sure I did not have to do it alone. For a moment, neither of us moves, and it is not the kind of stillness that feels empty. It is full, like something has finally settled into place after being just slightly off for a long time. And I realize I am studying him in the same quiet way he must have been studying me, noticing details without trying to, the way he stands just inside the edge of the light, not hiding, not stepping forward, giving me space like he understands exactly how much I can handle at once. And that alone tells me more than anything else could, because no one has ever been this careful with me before. No one has ever adjusted themselves instead of expecting me to adjust first. And I feel something shift in my chest. Not sharp, not overwhelming, just a subtle loosening, like a knot that has been there so long I forgot it existed is finally starting to ease. And when he finally speaks, his voice is low, steady, not loud enough to break the calm we are standing in, but clear enough that it reaches me. Without effort. You almost skipped it tonight. And the words are simple, but they land deeper than they should, because he is not asking, he is not guessing, he knows. And I exhale slowly, setting the cup down beside me as I look at him more directly now, no longer pretending this is something I can ignore. You have been doing this, I say, my voice quieter than before, but steadier. The tea, the light, everything. And he does not deny it, does not deflect, he just nods once, like it is the most natural thing in the world, like it never occurred to him to hide it once I was ready to see. And that calm certainty should make me pull back. It should make me question everything. But instead it draws me in, because it matches the rhythm that has been building around me, the one I could not explain until now. And I find myself asking the question that has been sitting just beneath the surface of everything. Why? And there is no accusation in it, just genuine confusion, because I do not understand why someone would go this far, why someone would shape their presence around me without ever asking for anything in return. And for the first time, something in his expression shifts. Not dramatically, not enough to break that steady control, but just enough that I can see something underneath it, something quiet and real, because you needed it before you knew how to ask for it, he says, and the answer is so simple it almost feels incomplete, but the more I sit with it, the more it fills in the spaces I did not know were there, because he is right, I never asked. I never even thought I could. I just kept building something fragile, and hoping it would hold, and somehow he saw that. Somehow he stepped in without breaking it, without making it obvious, without taking control away from me, only reinforcing what I had already started, and that realization settles into me in a way that feels heavier than anything else so far, because it means he has been here longer than I realized, longer than I want to admit, and I look at him again, Really look this time, not just at his presence, but at the way he carries it, the quiet confidence, the patience, the way he does not rush me even now. And I understand something that makes my chest tighten and ease at the same time. This was never accidental. None of it was. Every small detail, every perfectly timed moment, every night that felt just a little easier than the last. It was all intentional. And the most unsettling part is not that he did it. It is that part of me is relieved that he did. Because for the first time I can remember, I am not the only one holding everything together. And as I sit there in the soft light with him standing just a few feet away, I realize the ritual has already changed. It is no longer something I do alone. It is something we are already sharing, even before I decide what that means. The room does not feel the same anymore. Not because anything has changed on the surface. The lamp still casts that soft, steady glow. The tea still sits within reach. The air still holds that quiet balance I have grown used to. But because now I know, now I see the intention behind it. And once something is seen, it cannot go back to being invisible. And I feel it in the way I sit, in the way my shoulders hold tension I did not notice before. Not fear, not exactly, but awareness sharpened into something more fragile. Because there is a difference between being supported without knowing and choosing to accept that support. And I am standing right at the edge of that difference, and I do not know which side I am on yet. And he does not push me, does not step closer, does not try to close the space between us like someone else might. Instead, he waits, calm, patient, like he has already decided he will not move until I do. And that patience unsettles me more than anything else could, because it means this is not temporary. It means he is not here by accident. And I look down at my hands for a moment, at the faint warmth still lingering in my palms from the cup, at the slight tremor that only shows up when I stop pretending I am completely steady. And I realize something I have been avoiding since the moment I turned around. If I let this continue, if I accept that he has been part of this all along, then I have to admit that I needed help, that I could not hold everything together on my own. And that thought presses against something deep in me, something that has always insisted I should be able to manage, that I should not rely on anyone else, that needing something is the same as losing control. And I exhale slowly, letting that thought sit instead of pushing it away like I usually would. Because tonight already feels different already. Feels like something has shifted beyond what I can undo. And I lift my gaze back to him, studying him again, not just as a presence now, but as a person. The way his posture stays relaxed but attentive. The way his eyes do not leave me, but also do not trap me, giving me room to breathe even as he watches. And I realize he is not waiting for permission to exist here. He is waiting for me to decide what this means. And that realization settles into me with a quiet weight, because it means the next step is mine, not his. And for a second I hesitate, not because I want him gone, but because I am not used to choosing something that involves someone else staying, and my voice comes out softer than I expect when I finally speak. You could have told me. And it is not an accusation, not really, just a statement of something I am still trying to understand. And he tilts his head slightly, just enough to acknowledge the words without interrupting the space between us. You were not ready to hear it, he says, and again, the answer is simple, direct. But it fits too well, because he is right. If he had stepped into the light too soon, if he had broken the illusion before I built enough stability to hold it, I would have pushed him away. I would have rejected the very thing that was helping me survive. And that truth settles into me in a way that feels both uncomfortable and grounding. And I nod slowly, more to myself than to him, because I can feel the resistance inside me shifting, not disappearing, but changing shape, becoming something I can actually examine instead of something that controls me without question. And I reach for the cup again, not because I need the warmth, but because I need the familiarity of the motion, the grounding of something I recognize. And I take a slow breath, letting the rhythm settle back into place. But this time it feels different, not because it is broken, but because it is shared openly now, no longer something hidden just out of sight. And as I sit there with him still standing nearby, not moving closer, not pulling away, I realize the ritual has reached a point it was never meant to reach on its own. It is no longer just about getting through the night. It is about deciding who stands with me while I do. And for the first time, that choice does not feel like something I have to resist. It feels like something I might actually be ready to face. The moment stretches just long enough that I realize something has already shifted without me noticing, because I am no longer bracing myself against him. I am not calculating distance or exit or how to retreat back into something that feels safer. Instead, I am sitting there with the cup in my hands, breathing steadily, aware of him and not overwhelmed by it. And that alone feels like a quiet kind of change. I do not know how to measure yet, and when I finally speak again, my voice is softer, not guarded in the same way it was before. What happens if I stop? And the question hangs there between us, heavier than it sounds, because I am not asking about the ritual, not really. I am asking about everything that has been built around it, about the nights that have started to feel manageable, about the fragile balance I have only recently begun to trust. And he does not answer immediately, which tells me he understands exactly what I mean, because if it were simple, he would have said so already. And instead, he takes one small step closer, not enough to close the space completely, just enough that I can feel the shift in the air, the presence becoming more tangible without crowding me. And when he speaks, his voice is still calm, still steady, but there is something more grounded in it now, something that feels anchored. Then we rebuild it, he says, and the words settle into me in a way that is both unfamiliar and strangely reassuring, because he does not say it will not break. He does not promise that everything will stay perfect. He does not try to convince me that I will never fall apart again. He simply acknowledges that if it does happen, it will not be the end. It will not be something I have to face alone, and that honesty does something inside me that comfort never could. It makes the idea of failure feel less final, less absolute, and I find myself looking at him differently now, not as someone who has been quietly controlling the edges of my world, but as someone who has been holding space for me within it. And that distinction matters more than I expected, because control would have pushed me away. But this feels like something I can choose, something I can step into without losing myself in it. And I let out a slow breath, feeling the tension in my shoulders ease just a little more. Not gone, but no longer as tight. And I realize I have been waiting for something to break this entire time, waiting for the moment when this would become too much, too invasive, too overwhelming. But that moment has not come, and the longer I sit here, the more it feels like it might not come at all. And that thought is both unsettling and calming at the same time, because it means I have been wrong about something, about how much I need to control in order to stay steady, about how much I have to carry by myself in order to keep moving forward. And I glance down at the cup again, at the faint curl of steam that is still rising even now, steady and consistent. And I realize I am not holding on to it as tightly as I was before. I am not using it as a shield or a boundary. I am just holding it, present in the moment instead of bracing against what might come next. And when I look back at him, there is something quieter in me now, something more settled, not because everything is resolved, but because I am no longer trying to push this away before I understand it. And I shift slightly on the bed, just enough to create a small space beside me. Not an invitation spoken out loud, not something I fully analyze before I do it, just a simple adjustment that changes the shape of the moment. And he notices, of course he does, but he does not react immediately. He does not rush to fill the space I have created. Instead, he waits again, giving me time to recognize what I have done, to decide if I want to take it back. And I do not. I leave the space there. I let it exist between us, and in that quiet, steady room, with the lamp casting its soft light and the rhythm of the night settling into something shared instead of something I carry alone, I understand something that feels both small and significant at the same time. I am not just surviving this anymore. I am allowing someone to be part of it. He does not move right away, and I realize that is part of it, part of what has made all of this possible without breaking me. He never takes the step before I am ready to see it, never fills the silence before I understand what it means, and that patience settles around us like something steady and real. And for a moment, I wonder how many nights he stood just like this, just out of sight, just beyond my awareness, making small adjustments I never noticed, holding everything together while I believed I was doing it alone. And that thought should feel overwhelming. It should make me question everything. But instead it feels quiet, like something finally makes sense in a way it never did before, and I watch as he finally shifts, just slightly, stepping into the space I created, not all at once, not enough to crowd me, just enough that the distance between us no longer feels like a barrier, and he sits beside me with the same careful precision he has shown in everything else, leaving just enough space that I can still breathe easily, still choose how close this becomes. And the moment he settles there, something in the room changes again, not dramatically, not in a way that breaks the calm, but in a way that completes it, like a pattern finally aligning the way it was always meant to. And I realized the rhythm I have been following, the one I thought I created, was never meant to be held by one person alone. It was always meant to be shared, even if I did not understand that at the time. And I take a slow breath, feeling the difference in it now, the way it feels steadier, not because it is controlled more tightly, but because it is supported, and I let the silence sit between us for a moment longer before I finally speak, not asking a question this time, not trying to understand or analyze or protect myself from what this might become, but simply acknowledging it. Stay. And the word is quiet, almost uncertain, but it does not feel fragile. It feels honest, like something I have been holding back for longer than I realized. And he does not hesitate, does not question it, does not turn it into something heavier than it needs to be. He just nods once, the same calm certainty he has carried through everything. And that is enough, more than enough. Because it means I do not have to negotiate this moment. I do not have to explain why I am choosing it. I can just let it exist, and I reach for the cup again, lifting it slowly, taking a small sip as the warmth settles into me, grounding me in the same way it always has. But this time it feels different, not because the ritual has changed, but because I am no longer using it to hold everything together by myself. I am allowing it to be something shared, something that exists between us instead of something I cling to alone. And I set the cup back down, letting my hands rest loosely in my lap, not gripping, not bracing, just present. And when I whisper the sentence again, the same one I have said every night, it does not feel like something I am forcing into the quiet. It feels like something that already belongs here, something that has been waiting to be spoken out loud in a space that can hold it without breaking. And for the first time since I started all of this, I do not listen for what might go wrong after. I do not brace for the night to turn against me. I just sit there, breathing steadily, aware of him beside me, aware of the calm that has settled in a way I do not have to question anymore. And I understand something that feels both simple and impossible at the same time. Tomorrow was never something I had to fix on my own. I just needed to stop trying to survive it alone. And as the light softens and the night settles fully into place around us, I realize this is no longer just a ritual. It is a choice. And for the first time, I am choosing to let someone stay.